And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about these MVP odds. Now, most of the time, the MVP odds, like, to start the season, they're going to be incredibly biased. And by that, I mean Luka Doncic is going to be one of the front runners every single time. He's a front runner every single year for very good reason. However, he doesn't seem to end up winning the award in the end. It's always it's the last 4 years, 3 of the MVPs have gone to Jokic, and only one of them have went to someone else, which was Joel Embiid, which it shouldn't have gone to Joel Embiid. It should have gone to Jokic. So I really don't think there's any sort of excuse for not having Jokic as the favorite for winning the MVP for next season. But in several other sports sites, a lot of the betting odds, they have Luka Doncic as the favorite in for winning the MVP. So when you look at DraftKings, actually DraftKings is the only betting site where Jokic is actually the favorite in terms of odds for winning the MVP. When you look at the other gambling sites like Vegas Insider, they think that Luka Doncic has the best chances of winning the MVP. BetMGM also believes that Luka Doncic has the best chances of winning MVP. FanDuel as well. Like, Luka is a heavy favorite for the MVP in this year, even though I think that it should, if you do want to, I think it still should be Jokic. Like, Jokic should still easily be the favorite to win the MVP for next season. And the fact that Luka Doncic has better odds than him to win the MVP, that's sort of a trend. Like, every single year for Luka Doncic and every single year for the Dallas Mavericks, it's like they think that Luka is going to finally win the MVP, and then all of a sudden Jokic just has the better team record, puts up ridiculous monster numbers, puts up highly efficient monster numbers as well, and ultimately snags the award for himself. That one year where he didn't win the award was not his fault. It was the voters' fault and some fault of Kendrick Perkins, but not really going to talk about that all that much. Another favorite for the MVP is SGA, and in a lot of sites they all say that they all are they're looking forward to SGA, and they really expect SGA to win the MVP in these odds. And Joel Embiid's another one, and Giannis Antetokounmpo isn't as high on the MVP ladder as I would expect. He's right now on this list. He's actually ranked 5th with the the 5th most odds to win the MVP, and I don't know how I feel about that. And the same thing with SGA. I mean, SGA has a rather, I don't want to say they're a great team, but they are a very solid team with a lot of young talent. And, I mean, they did have a Rookie of the Year candidate with Chet Holmgren. They also had very solid second options with the Jalen's on the team. And, yes, SGA was the biggest reason as to why OKC was where it's at. But I don't really think that it'll be enough to sort of undermine Jokic's value and the things that Jokic is able to bring to the table for his team. And not only that, the team record, obviously the Thunder, they were the best team in the Western Conference, but they were the number 1 seed. However, I believe they had the same record as the Denver Nuggets, at least for a time. I remember there was a little bit of a debate on which team was going to end up getting the number 1 seed towards the very end of the NBA season. It came down to the wire. So it's going to be, obviously team record is a very important factor when you're thinking of MVP, and not just, the individual talent of one player. And Jokic should have the best odds for that, seeing as he's won it 3 out of the last 4 years. I don't really expect that trend to change. But I do have, some dark horse candidates for who I think has the best chances of winning the MVP. And spoiler alert, one of those players that in my opinion, the biggest dark horse candidate to win the MVP. I know a lot of you guys are going to, you guys aren't going to believe it, but it's LeBron James. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. LeBron James, to win the MVP this year, has lower betting odds, has lower odds of winning the MVP than Victor Wembanyama, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, and even Anthony Davis. Players that you don't really expect to be over LeBron in MVP conversations, they're over LeBron in terms of these odds. So if there's anyone that's a real dark horse candidate, it should be LeBron. Because his odds, Jaylen Brown has better odds to win the MVP than LeBron James. Excuse me? Huh? What? And, it's really, again, LeBron, he is coming off he's being one of the oldest players in the NBA. There's no telling exactly how well he's going to play this next season. We have no idea if the decline for LeBron starts now. Not to mention the new coach that the Lakers ended up getting and the new coaching staff as well. It's a whole new look for the Lakers, and there's a lot of things that are sort of preventing LeBron from being a favorite that he normally is, and a big part of that is age. And I think, the biggest dark horse, obviously LeBron is a big name, but nobody really thinks that LeBron is going to win the MVP anymore, especially since there have been previous years where I feel like he should have won the MVP, but ultimately didn't because team record and also the voters and voter fatigue. Voter fatigue is a real thing, whether you like it or not. And again, lower betting odds to win the MVP than Victor Wembanyama, who actually... Jeremy, who's the host of I believe it is another sports podcast that we do. I recommend tuning into that. But he actually thought he said that Victor Wembanyama would be his dark horse candidate for MVP. When I said LeBron, everybody was like, I don't know about that because, he's a big name. But in reality, Victor has better odds of winning the MVP this next coming season than LeBron James has. So my point was not invalid whatsoever. Because I know the doubters with LeBron. I know how the system works, and I know how many people are really expecting Victor Wembanyama to sort of, blossom into that NBA player that everybody expects him to be. And they're not wrong for thinking that. He's phenomenal. And also, Rob, for one of our other podcasts as well, shout out to Rob, and he just started working with us. He's a great guy. Unfortunately, he's a Philly fan. But aside from that, he thought that Jalen Brunson would be a pretty good dark horse candidate to win the MVP. Jalen has better odds to win the MVP than Victor, who, might I remind you, has better odds to win the MVP than LeBron. So if we're talking about dark horse candidates, LeBron is the legitimate dark horse candidate just based off of the odds. Looking at let's see, what do we want to look at? Let's look at DraftKings. How about that? So DraftKings, they have Jalen Brunson as plus 1,800 in terms of odds. So the way that the odds work is the way I look at it, the number that's closer to zero or the smallest number that is in the betting odds is the most likely chance of who's going to win. And so Jalen Brunson, he has an 1,800, and then Victor Wembanyama has a 2,000 betting odds chance, right, in DraftKings. And then here comes LeBron, who has a 15,000. The gap between Jalen Brunson and Victor Wembanyama on MVP favorites is staggering, especially considering how he's LeBron James. So I really think that LeBron is going to be a dark horse candidate for MVP this year. He's LeBron. There's really a new coaching staff, a new offensive system. I think the offensive system is really going to benefit him and Anthony Davis, but primarily LeBron just because of LeBron's playmaking. And I think that there's really no excuse for him to not be a dark horse candidate. And there's so many other players that have better odds to win the MVP according to these sites than LeBron himself, which is, I find it rather egregious, honestly. But aside from that, that is all I have for this first segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the second segment where we look at the other side of the ball and we talk about Defensive Player of the Year and their odds and who is the favorite of winning Defensive Player of the Year for next season. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the